Twat.
Excellent, okay. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Fucking twat.
Have you been stood at the bar for quite some time now?
No, I just really want to make this fucking hard for you.
To be perfectly honest, mate, it's harder for the stage than it is for me at the minute. Don't take on the master, you know better than that. Frankie, obviously these three English guys know nothing about Jordan. You played a lot of rugby with him. Everyone's got great things to say about him, but have you got any really special memories you want to share with us?
Well, for a start, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I'll be chasing him for that £20 back for this shagging job. I remember, I suppose, there's a lot of smoke being blown up Geordie's backside, but I remember, I think it was Geordie's first cap against Japan, and I think we ended up winning the game by about 60 points, but I don't think it went too well personally for Geordie, and we were inside the VIP room of Annabelle's, and there was a little tear in Geordie's eye, and I turned around to him and said, look, will you have a drink? And he said, no, I get it. Grand, they said. Turned around, 2 minutes later, he got a drink, all right. He got a tequila, a vodka Red Bull, and a bottle of Corona to wash it down. And that was Geordie for all out. He took the night by the scruff of the neck and he had a good day. But he bounced back very soon after, and there's another few stories as well, but we'll save them for the bar later on, I think.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, is there any Irish people here? Can you please translate that onto the people on your table? I haven't got a fucking clue what you just said. Thanks for coming. He's quite hard, actually. I'm going to stand over here. Okay, I won't with you, Jason. Anyway, Jono, you must be looking forward to this Q&A.
Yeah, as ever. It's always good to see you.
There's a lot of people drinking here tonight, and there's a lot of drunk people, but a lot of people have been saying how impressed they have been with Lewis Moodys' leadership skills. Do you think that? I mean, can you believe what bollocks people are talking?
I think with Lewis, we've known him for a long, long time. He was about 12 when he turned up at Leicester and we played with him, so we've seen him. Lewis actually played in Leicester's first professional game as a 16-year-old, I think it was, a 17-year-old, straight out of Oakham School in 1996. And he was about a 12 stone, I think it was Will Green was still there, 12 stone wet through flanker. But he just had the same mentality he has now. He just was 100% committed. I remember I gave him a pass remarkably in the game, and he went herring off towards the line and nearly scored. And he got up and he went, oh, I always score those when I have a chance. So I said to him, mate, yeah, but that's playing for the schoolboy rugby, you know, it was his first senior game. But he was just the most enthusiastic bloke to play, and he had that period when we'd kick off and just send Lewis after the ball, and he'd take off about 10 yards away from where the ball was going to land, and when he landed there'd just be carnage. There'd be 3 or 4 dead bodies, and generally Lewis lying on the floor as well. And one time he did it, I think we were playing Quins, so there's probably a few more bodies on the floor than normal being Quins.
Oh. There's some blood, not necessarily theirs.
Lewis had taken about 3 of them out, and himself, and he's lying there in a complete heap on the floor. And I thought, Christ, I better go and see him. He said, oh, he's injured himself again. And he winded himself, but he was still trying to laugh at what he'd done. He's lying on the floor in a first division game, giggling to himself, but winded at the same time. So he hasn't changed. That's the great thing about it. Just hugely enthusiastic about playing the game.
And it must be difficult with, there's some real legends of Leicester Tigers here tonight. Obviously, you stood next to one, but you've got players like Graham Roundtree and Darren Garforth who've been at the club for 10 years and played 450 games, and you've got Lewis who's been there for 14 years and played 42 games. So how does that make
you feel? He did get a few injuries. The funniest, I can remember Lewis, he injured his foot after the World Cup in 2003, 2004. He was injured for a long, long time. Had this foot injury and it wouldn't heal. And I wasn't there, but I've heard the story and I believe it to be true. But he had this injury for about 6 months, and he was in one of those boots, this big plastic walking boot. And they got another specialist in to see him, and he was lying on the couch at the club, and he'd taken the boot off. And bearing in mind he'd been injured for 6 months, and the specialist had come in and said, Lewis, nice to meet you. Which foot is it? And Lewis just looked at him blankly. And he got off the couch and started hopping on each foot. And he went, Oh, that one. No, the right. So he's, yeah, a little bit.
And I'll have to ask you, obviously there's some very intuitive minds here from the world of rugby. There's some minds here from the world of rugby. I asked you a question on the BBC about the coaching staff. Matt has asked me to ask it again because he's interested. Is there going to be a coaching job going with England over the Christmas period?
Just fill your application form out so and post it in.
Who's going to read it to you?
Who's going to read it to you?
Chase, this is going well. I'm going to get the shit kicked out of me in a minute. Chase, just you were obviously well known as a talented, very gifted and natural player. Well, truly one of the great legends of the game. No, I'm not just saying that just because you stood on my foot. But watching Jordan Murphy play and knowing full well that you would never ever lay a finger on him, how did that make you feel?
I never had a problem with that because actually the only person I wanted to tackle was you little twat. and actually, I used to do that quite a lot. So on the basis of that, Geordie was the talented player and you was fucking rubbish.
Dawson, just over to you quickly. Please help me. I think he might eat me. Working on the 3 autumn internationals, how would you sum up England's autumn? Oh, that's Come on, it's an easy question.
Right, okay. It was a very tough autumn for a number of reasons, mainly because of injuries. However, I think it's fairly safe to say, even though the Argentina game was a complete debacle, and there was the camera angles of Martin, pumping his fists and smashing the desk, and I personally love to see that because that reflects exactly what we all think, rather than trying to mask it over. No one was hiding from the fact Ugo Monti put his hand up and said, I played terribly, I shouldn't be in the team. I actually thought that was quite refreshing. And they obviously had a tough week. And but that first half against New Zealand showed enormous character. I thought it showed huge passion. People like Steve Borthwick came under a lot of pressure from myself, from former players, from journalists. And that first half, I thought he really stood up and led from the front, which is what the England team needed. And so it wasn't the best autumn series, but I think John Owen's England staff and players will be pleased that they finished on a positive note. I know it wasn't a win, obviously, but I think there's a hell of a lot to take out of that game against New Zealand.
Okay, John, just go into that quickly. You spoke about the frustration there. As a player, you had the opportunity to vent that frustration by kicking the crap out of someone on the field. But now when you go home and you've got all that frustration pent up, do you kick the cat or bash the bishop? What do you do?
I think frustration is we know we can play better. That's a frustrating thing. All the players felt the same. So they put the hard work in to play. We put the hard work in. When it doesn't work, it doesn't happen. It's disappointing, but I think some of the things Matt said were true, actually, for a change.
A rarity.
It was difficult. I mean, we were ahead against Australia at half-time. We could have won that game, but Argentina was probably a little bit cautious. And then against the All Blacks, we played pretty well for periods of the game. So we're just going to get consistency, I think. A lot of changes in the team, some good players to come back in the Six Nations. So I think a lot to build on.
Okay, Frankie. Quickly moving on to Ireland again. Ireland have had quite a reasonable autumn so far. One of the things that always struck me and our fellow English players was when Jordan Murphy wasn't selected for that bag of shite Gervin Dempsey. I mean, how did that make you feel as players? I mean, do you think that the coach